Thank you, Dean Greer, for that very warm introduction and thorough introduction. I appreciate it. Father Matthew, for your leadership here at the school, and Professor Rangan for coming up with this great vision a couple of years ago to bring students from Christ University to Richmond, Virginia, and to bring students from Richmond here. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for exchange between India and America. Well, listen, for all of you here, I want to say I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Do you not know about Ronald Reagan? Okay. I'm here to help you understand the important things that India and America are doing, and more particularly that Virginia and India are doing, working together. There's so much in common between our nations. First of all, I want to say to all my friends back in the basketball capital of the world, Richmond, Virginia, good morning. Thank you for getting up so early back there in Richmond to be with us long distance, 9,000 miles away. I appreciate you very much, and I miss you. I hope you're keeping a good eye over the Capitol and my house, and Steven Spielberg has taken over the Capitol completely to film the movie Lincoln while we're gone. Lots of great things happening back in Richmond. To the faculty and the clergy here at Christ University, I want to salute you for your ministry, your vocation, and your hard work for the young people here in Bangalore. I can tell you, I went to Catholic elementary school, I went to Catholic high school, I went to Notre Dame, a Catholic university, and if it hadn't been for the priests slapping my knuckles with a ruler and pulling my sideburns and exhorting me, I don't think I'd be governor of Virginia today. Thank you for your leadership here at Christ University. Well, I want to just introduce a few people. I didn't come by myself. These delegations are only successful if you have a team. And as you heard, I've got several members of my cabinet. For those of you that are in India, it's like our ministers. You saw Secretary Jim Ching, Secretary of Commerce. We have our Secretary of Agriculture, Todd Haymore. Please stand up. Agriculture, even though we're a very high-tech, service-oriented state in Virginia, agriculture still the largest industry in Virginia, $80 billion US. And I'm also delighted to be here with my wife of 35 years, the First Lady of Virginia, Maureen. Thank you, Maureen, also for coming. We have a number of other members of the delegation. I'm not going to recognize all of them, but I'd like to have all the members that are here with me from the great Commonwealth of Virginia as part of our delegation. Please stand up so so the audience can see who you are. Thank you. These are our leaders from our Economic Development Partnership and from other aspects of state government. I want to point out two people in particular that I think are very noteworthy, and that is, we are here in Karnataka, which is the home of the president of Virginia Commonwealth University, Dr. Michael Rao, which I think is very interesting. The largest university in Virginia, the president is here from India. But we also have with us two board members that I appointed when I became governor that are also from India, and they're here with us today, new Board of Visitors members for Virginia Commonwealth, Dr. Kamlesh Dave and Mr. Sudhakar Shenoy, and I'm really glad that they are here with us as well. Shukriya. Well, there's so much I'd like to say, and I have a short period of time, and I want to answer your questions. I first want to say how important it is to celebrate what we're doing here today. Through the magic and industriousness of people that understand technology, we're able to have a real-time discussion and presentation from Richmond, Virginia to Bangalore, India. I think that's amazing. Secondly, we are celebrating this incredible relationship between India and America, the two largest democracies in all of the world. We share an incredible love for freedom, for free enterprise, for liberty, for competition, and for those deeply held beliefs that democratic capitalism is the best economic system that the world has ever known. and it's accounting for the prosperity in America and India today. I get the opportunity on Monday to visit with your Prime Minister Singh, as we travel to Delhi to finish up our trip and then open up a trade office as well for our Agriculture Secretariat there. And I look forward to telling him about this wonderful partnership that I think we have had for this very long period of time between our two nations, and how higher education and business and cultural exchange, as we've seen from the dancers. By the way, thank you for inviting me to speak and not to dance. I got sore just watching those young people dance. But these are the key ingredients to strengthening the partnership between our marvelous democracies and to exchange the tools for enhancing human freedom and the quality of life for many years to come. The trade office that we opened yesterday in Mumbai, I think, is a marvelous symbol of our long-standing commitment into the future to enhance relationships between the Commonwealth of Virginia and India. Another thing we have in common is between the great nations is the fact that we both, in the last 235 years, have thrown off the rule of the British. No offense to my friends from England, but as you know, we did it in 1776 when Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. By the way, how many of you know of the writing of Thomas Jefferson? Oh, we got to do better than that. Nobody. Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, but more importantly, the second governor of Virginia, was the one that wrote that foundational document that enshrined those principles of liberty that America still holds dear today. Now, it took Indians a lot longer than that. It wasn't until 1947 where the British rule ended here in this great land, but those traditions from England, our system of law, and many other customs and traditions are still yet another thing that I think binds the nation of India and America together. Well, I want to talk for just a minute about some of the things that we are doing over here that I think will help with this ongoing partnership between Virginia and America. I believe, and India. First of all, I think that the aspects of trade, people finding ways to engage in business and free enterprise, is one of the things that will bring nations together in peace. One of the hallmarks of the system of democracy and capitalism that we share is that we do not guarantee outcomes in America. What we do guarantee is freedom and opportunity. And that is that if you in a free society use your God-given talents, if you work hard, if you play by the rules, that you can do everything you can do to achieve what we call in America the American dream. And that is to find a nation and find a life for yourself and your kids and your grandkids that was a little better than the nation that you inherited. It kind of reminds me of the old Boy Scout motto, and that is, we have a duty to leave the campground a little better than we found it. And that is, I think, what America and India and our system of democracy is really all about. And business is a great way to be able to do that. Over these last 30 years, we've seen a quiet revolution in India because of advances in technology, in medicine, and in the structures of free enterprise. We've seen companies like Biocon and Sandestra and Tete, companies that I visited in the last couple days, have this vision of a global conglomerate, starting with maybe one person in a garage, and like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or Nitin Sandesara or Dr. Shah have found ways to grow that small vision into world-class multinational companies. And as a result of that, bring in thousands and hundreds of thousands of people into new jobs and new enterprises that have created new technologies that have really changed the world in a very positive way. I mean, that's the advantage of business. And that's why, Dean, what you're doing at VCU and Professor Wood back there at VCU and what you're doing here, Father Matthew, with these young people here is so important, I think, for the future prosperity of the world and for peaceful relations between so many nations as we bind together along this whole vision of creating economic prosperity through business. Virginia wants to be a leading force in that regard. You heard some of the accolades Virginia's been given, the most business-friendly state in America, according to CNBC and Polina, and last year by Forbes. We're also the state that has more technology workers than any state in America, except for California, over 300,000. Virginia is the 12th largest state, the 8th most prosperous state, in large measure because of these advances in technology and biotech, aerospace, and other things that have created great wealth and opportunity in our state. We're the home of some of the largest energy companies in all of the world. We think energy exploration and development is also going to be something that will create great new opportunities in both Virginia and in India. We've got coal and natural gas and nuclear and offshore oil and wind and natural gas and marvelous new alternative technologies in biomass and solar that are being put together in the state of Virginia. So there are marvelous opportunities, I think, with our state to partner with India to be able to lift up the human condition and lift up people in both of our states. I think education is so much a key to the American dream. I can tell you if I hadn't studied business at Notre Dame and then gotten a couple of master's degrees and a law degree, I would not have this marvelous opportunity that I now have to have the same job of Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson, the first two governors of Virginia, and now I get the privilege of being the 71st governor of Virginia. And it all came through access to education. The fact that Christ University and VCU are partnering together to expand those opportunities across the 9,000-mile span is outstanding. We met yesterday with another university, if I might brag on another great university, Virginia Tech. We met with them and some of the leaders from Tete and the Marg Group that are now partnering together to start a master's degree program in engineering and the sciences just on the east coast of India in Chennai. So there are marvelous things happening in education. We understand that America still is the gold standard in higher education, although we've got more to do. We've got world-class universities in Virginia like Virginia Commonwealth University, Virginia Tech, the University of Virginia, James Madison, George Mason, William and Mary, the second oldest university in all of America. Since I've been governor, we put a premium on expanding opportunities to the American dream through higher education. Last year, working together, this last January in our General Assembly session, we passed sweeping reforms in our higher education system to dramatically increase access to education, to help reduce tuitions, making it easier for you students and your parents to be able to keep the tuitions at a reasonable level. And most importantly, to be able to expand in Virginia over the next 15 years, 100,000 new degrees in higher education. But not just in any degrees. We've, for the first time ever, tied higher education with economic development and job creation, meaning that these new degrees and these new opportunities we want to provide in Virginia educational institutions will be in those areas that we know are going to be the jobs that are necessary in the 21st century: science, technology, engineering, math, healthcare, business, the things that are going to be necessary for the 21st century jobs in our state. So we're very excited about that. We've put over $100 million each year over the last 2 years. We'll do additional investments in higher education again this year so that more students from Virginia can go to Virginia colleges and more students from Mumbai and Delhi and Bangalore and all the other great cities of India can also come to our great state and have access to higher education. So, Dean and Father Matthew, thank you for what you're doing. This is a marvelous vision that you've started, Professor. a couple of years ago. I think this is going to manifest itself not only in closer relations between India and America, but greater innovations. Minds across the waters, Indians working with Americans and Virginians in technology and biotech and nanotech and agriculture and aerospace, I think we'll come up with some of the best new ideas that we will see that will improve the human condition over these next couple of years. So, congratulations to you great young students at Christ University, those of you that are here from VCU, those of you that will travel to Richmond next year to immerse yourself in that experience. I'm talking to myself. I think it's going to be a marvelous opportunity to increase this partnership between the world's two great democracies. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I look forward to your questions. Shukriya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. I think we'll open up. I think it's time for us to open up the floor for questions from the audience.
Okay.
And we will start taking questions from Richmond.
Okay.
Van, Dr. Wood.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. We're ready for some questions here. One of the things I'd like to point out is that the students have blossomed here with the foundations they got in India, and then the additions of what we're adding here. I think that the governor will find the questions that they have to be not only insightful, but also rigorous in terms of their nature. Let me start over here with the question of one of my students. I ask you to introduce yourself to the governor and state your question succinctly.
Good evening, Honorable Governor. My name is Sheba, doing my master's in Global Marketing Management. My question to you today, partnership programs between institutions of higher education, such as that between VCU and Christ University, offer students from both institutions the opportunity to build global relationships that many believe are critical for the future of international business and wealth creation. What is your opinion to programs such as these, and what would your administration do specifically to further support the development of such programs in the future?
Well, Sheba, thank you for that question. I rarely get questions this easy from the press. This is very nice of you to throw me a softball for the first question. Of course, I support this partnership. That's why I'm here. I think this is a marvelous vision that Professor Rangan and the leaders here had. It is a great method of cultural and economic exchange, putting the best and brightest minds from India and the United States together in one classroom in Richmond or Bangalore is a marvelous opportunity for the best and brightest people to get together and create solutions to the human condition. By the way, I just want to say, I drove for about 10 hours today in the traffic in Bangalore, and then I went to speak to some business people, and they were complaining about the traffic in Virginia. I did not understand that question. But I do want to say that I have the privilege of governing for 2 more years, and we want to do everything we can to facilitate more of these partnerships. Part of that 100,000 new degrees that we intend to create will go to expand opportunities for our young people in Virginia, but also open up the world-class universities of Virginia, like Virginia Tech and VCU, that are already engaged in these partnerships, to young people like you around the world, where you can get access to your dreams and more opportunities by coming to a world-class American university. We think that these investments that I will continue to make in the budget, in higher education, will provide the resources that are necessary to expand these slots so these partnerships are going to continue. But I can tell you, no matter what the government does, without the leadership of people in public and private universities, of which this is a consummate public-private partnership here, without the leadership in academia and people being willing to think outside the box, as these leaders have here today, we won't achieve the success that we see here today. So I encourage it. I hope you will continue this, and perhaps next year I'll speak from Richmond to the students here in Bangalore, if you'll give me another invitation.
Let me turn it back to you, Dr. Rangan. Question from your side?
Thank you. I think we have a question from the floor. Can you introduce yourself first and then
Good evening, Governor. I'm Namrita of MBA MS. We know you have been to China in the recent past. What are your thoughts about doing business with China versus doing business with India?
You don't expect me to say anything other than I love doing business with India, do you? I mean, well, let me give you a couple thoughts on that. As I said, I went to China, Japan, and Korea with Secretary Cheng and a delegation in May of this year. The reason China and India obviously are so important is between the two countries, you have 2.5 billion people. When I'm looking at new markets for us to open for Virginia farmers or Virginia technology companies or Virginia manufacturers, I can't think of a better place to go than where the people are. Remember when they asked Jesse James why he robbed banks? He said, that's where the money is. Well, you know, it's the same thing when you're looking for ways to open up markets. You go where the people are. And the people are here in India. But more importantly than that, again, this fact that we have two democracies that are committed to capitalism, or at least in India, a quasi-capitalist system, makes it easier in some ways to do business. Now, we have opened up an office in Shanghai in May. We've got people on the ground. We've just had our first major shipments of things like soybeans and other agricultural products. We just sent 7,000 bottles of wine. Our hope is the Chinese will drink it all and forget we owe them $1 trillion. I mean, that's part of our plan. Took you a while to get that back in Richmond. You're a little slow on the uptake back there. But we think that business people that are committed to creating dreams and opportunity for their citizens in Shanghai or Beijing or Bangalore or Delhi or Mumbai or Richmond or Washington or Seattle create marvelous opportunities to usher in more peace and prosperity in the world. I can tell you that China has some challenges with exchange rate manipulations. They've got still some challenges in trying to move forward, like India and America, in promoting human rights. There's obviously concerns about protecting intellectual property that still have to be worked through to make it easier to do business in China. But the last 20 years, China has grown at 9% on average, just slightly ahead of India. You're growing at 7 or 8% here. And so we have got to get Virginia businesses involved in China. India has had an enormous explosion in the technology sectors over the last 20 to 25 years, since some of the American companies, Texas Instruments and others, started coming to Bangalore. This is now the Indian hub for technology, for innovation, for biotech. And so the last 3 days already have opened my eyes to the fact that we have got to increase the opportunities for trade between Virginia and India. We've visited companies like Tete and Esselpropac and Sandasera and others that already have relationships. And then we've met with businesses like Infosys and other companies in the biotech and technology sphere that we're making our case for expansion of their U.S. business in Virginia. So it's critically important that we continue that pace, and the office that we've opened here yesterday will help us to do that in a greater way. Good luck on your MBA.
Thank you, Governor. Now, we'll have a question from Richmond. Van?
Yeah, let me move over to one of my male students here. And same thing, state your name and the question for the governor clearly.
Good evening, Honorable Governor. I'm Zohaib Shabir, majoring in Global Marketing Management. My question to you is, we have 55 students of Christ University that are studying at VCU School of Business. We are pursuing specialization in global marketing of finance. If you could recommend to us 2 or 3 additional educational courses that would contribute to our background and make us much more competitive so that we could contribute to the global commerce, which areas would that be?
Well, thank you for that question, and thank you for your courage and leadership in leaving your country for a while and going to Richmond and studying at our world-class Virginia Commonwealth University, and particularly studying global market management. You know, in the last 25 years, the world has changed immensely. Since the internet became a staple of not only American life, but life in all the emerging countries in the world and the developed countries. And since the spinoff from that technological revolution and things like Twitter and Facebook, the world is an incredibly more interconnected spot. I was sitting in your seat 35 years ago getting my MBA and studying business. And, technology at that time was Fortran and COBOL and computers that would fill this stage. Well, those computers now are right here in my hand in something that I can hold in a BlackBerry. It's amazing how the world has changed since Al Gore invented the internet 20 years ago. They get that back in Richmond, I think. So my point is, global market management is, I think, vitally important because business is no longer conducted just within the shores of any country. So many to grow and expand are looking well beyond the shores, and virtually every company that I met with over the last 3 days has that vision for their company to grow and expand to markets in the West and in Asia. I would say a couple things. Everybody that's in business has got to understand leadership, I think, first and foremost. There's no way to have a successful business or a successful nation unless you understand the principles of servant leadership. And I found that every successful entrepreneur that I met with today that started a business in a garage and now has $1 billion in revenues understood that principle of setting high expectations, taking care of your people, making sure you challenge them to reach their highest and best, giving them the opportunity to both succeed and fail. And so leadership courses are vitally important for anybody in business. Secondly is to understand organizations. For you to build a successful organization in Bangalore or in Richmond and expect that organization to be successful in Shanghai or Jakarta or in Indonesia, you've got to be able to have an organization that works well, because there's no way to micromanage an international corporation. You've got to surround yourself with the best and brightest people, set high standards for them, and then trust them to get the deal done in places where they're working when you're sleeping. That's the nature of global economic business right now. So I think those things are critically important: good organization, good leadership skills, and then finally, of course, is understanding access to capital markets. If you can't get access from a VC or from a bank, you can't grow. And that's one of the toughest challenges I see in business today, both in Virginia and in people I've talked to around the country and around the world, is finding a way, especially during this slow economic recovery from the meltdowns in 2008, if you can't get stable access to capital, you cannot grow. The old saying in business, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I would say understanding international finances and how to be able to attract access to low-interest capital is critically important.
Dr. Rangan, let's take another question from your side.
Governor, thank you. We'll take one more question from the floor here. Please introduce yourself and then.
Good evening, Governor.
Good evening.
This is Annette Stanley of MBA MS. We understand you have visited Indian companies like Infosys Technology and met with business leaders during your trip. What are your thoughts on Indian economy?
It's been my thoughts on the Indian economy. Is that the question?
Yes.
When we, from America, where we have a 9.1% unemployment rate and we're $16 trillion in debt, while we are still the international leader with the highest GDP in the world, we could learn a lot from the growth cycles in India over the last decade. You have become an innovative, entrepreneurial economy. It has lifted more boats of people into the middle class. It has created marvelous opportunities for companies based in Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai to have an international presence. 30 years ago, you saw very little of that. I think it started with some changes in your political structure through the 80s and 90s to open the door to more international trade, and more importantly, transform your economy more closely to a system that is built on a capitalist way of economics. Now, you're not completely there yet. There's still changes that I think you probably will talk about among leaders in the body politic over these next years, but I think that has been the key. The other thing is, at the same time when political structures were evolving in India, we also had this incredible internet and information revolution beginning perhaps in America, but then spreading across the world in the mid-'80s and '90s. And by the way, I'm very pleased with the role that Virginia played in that. Companies like America Online, AOL, innovators like Steve Case, and others coming up with this marvelous commercial access to the internet. The internet's been around since the late 1940s, but it was always used by the military. It was called ARPANET or DARPANET, but it was only really in the late 80s and early 90s that commercial firms began to harness and see the power of the internet. And so today, over 50% of all the internet traffic in America goes through Virginia, because we had the foresight with some of those innovators to be able to see that. Well, that's the same kind of synergy that I think you've developed now in India. More people getting access to a good higher education, whether it's IIT or other great universities in India, or whether it's a large number of Indian students going to get world-class education in America and then returning home, although we'd like more of you to stay in America. It has been a tremendous growth rate, 7, 8, 9% over the last decade. Even with a time of economic downturn, India is still projected to grow at 7% plus this year. That's phenomenal. America is expected to only grow maybe at a couple percent. Virginia is growing at 5 or 6%, so we're doing much better than most states because of our pro-business attitude and our reliance on energy and technology, which are growth sectors. But I see tremendous potential, industriousness of the people, tremendous new focus on international technology and biotech businesses, evolving political structures that encourage more free trade and international trade. All of these, I think, will give the people of India more opportunity to achieve their dreams. I'm very bullish on the Indian economy, which is why I'm here today to promote these new relationships between Virginia and India.
Thank you, Governor. We may have to end this session. We're running beyond time.
Well, thank you. I've run out the clock, apparently. So listen, thank you all very much. It's so great to see all you bright minds here from Christ University, all you young people there in Richmond, Virginia. I'll be back there on Tuesday afternoon. But this has been a real privilege for me as the Governor of Virginia to come here to talk to you about some of our thoughts about Virginia, about free enterprise, about democracy, and how these true world-class democracies continue to work together to improve the human condition and create more freedom for our people. God bless.